Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For a radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also joining us online worldwide via our podcast at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. We're glad you all could be with us as well. This is part of a News You Can Use segment here at WYAD, and today we're talking about disaster preparedness, not for ourselves, though, but for our pets. I know that we in the South, we're dealing with Tropical Storm Francine right now, so of course we make our disaster plans, but according to a new survey commissioned by Hill's Pet Nutrition, 8 in 10 Americans feel it's important to have a disaster preparedness plan that includes their pet, but just 1/3 actually have one. Joining us to discuss how pet owners can prepare for emergencies, we're excited to welcome Dr. Rebecca Tremble to our broadcast. Dr. Tremble is a veterinarian and U.S. Strategic Partnership Lead at Hill's Pet Nutrition, and she's joined by Dr. Roberta Westbrook, a Chief Animal Welfare and Medical Officer at Houston SPCA. I really appreciate the two of you for stopping by. I appreciate the information.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Well, the pleasure is definitely all mine. Dr. Tremble, I want to begin with you. We have a lot of pet owners here, of course, in the South, and we always are trying to think about ways we can take care of them. Why should pet parents have a disaster preparedness plan in place for their pet as well?
There's no doubt how much families love their pets, and it's an undeniable bond between pet parents and their pets. And, we're often not thinking about emergencies in that relationship. Unfortunately, in 2024 so far, and as you mentioned, even right now, we have multiple disasters coast to coast affecting our families and really underscoring the need for families to create these disaster plans that include their pets. Here at Hill's Pet Nutrition, we believe in doing everything we can to keep pets and their families together. We've created a one-of-a-kind network called the Hill's Disaster Relief Network that provides nutritional support for pets and groups like animal shelters that are helping in times of need. September is National Preparedness Month, and Hill's Pet Nutrition has joined with the Houston SPCA to help equip pet parents for a disaster.
Love that. That's why we're glad to have this information. Dr. Westbrook, I want to ask you, since we know that we need to be prepared if someone is making a pet emergency kit, what should they include in it?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned this because during an emergency, it's oftentimes difficult to get products together at the last minute. So it's important to have a kit already ready to go for an emergency. So you want to focus on 2 categories. You want to make sure that you always have essentials for your pet, but you also want to have some comfort items. When we're talking about items to put in that emergency kit, the essentials would be at least a 3-day supply of both food and water for your pet. It may be a good idea to have canned food that's non-perishable. You may also want to have some dry food available, and then you want to have some bottled water, at least a 3-day supply. Another essential is a safety harness and a leash. During an emergency, the last thing we want is for you to be separated from your pet, so you want to make sure you have a safe way to keep them close to you. If you have a cat, another essential item would be kitty litter for their litter box. They need a place to eliminate, and you want to have an opportunity for that to occur. And then some of the comfort items that would be helpful would be a blanket and toys and other things that you know that your pet enjoys. So putting a safety kit together would be fantastic. You can also contact your local veterinarian or your local animal shelter to get ideas about putting together a first aid kit. There are certainly some opportunities during a disaster, whether it be a flood or a fire, that your pet could become injured. And having basic first aid items like antibacterial wipes, cotton-tipped applicators, gauze, and bandaging material can actually be very helpful if your pet incurs an injury.
It's such great information. Dr. Trump, I want to ask you, over the past decade, how has Hill's Disaster Relief Network supported shelter partners like the Houston SPCA who are directly responding to families in crisis like this?
Absolutely. I'm proud to say that over the past decade, the Hill's Disaster Relief Network has provided more than 3.9 million pounds of food to organizations like the Houston SPCA that are helping families in times of a disaster. But we didn't just stop there. Hill's has also donated 1.9 million pounds of food to area food pantries to help provide free nutrition for those in a disaster or during times of pet food insecurity.
And that's why, again, this information is so important. Dr. Westbrook, I do have another question for you before we wrap up here. I mean, you were giving some great tips about what should be in our emergency kit. What are the tips you suggest to help families and their pets take steps toward their safety?
You know, one of the most important things families can do is make sure that their pet has not only a microchip, but a microchip that is up to date with proper contact information. If your pet gets separated from you during a disaster, we want to be able to reunite you with your pet as soon as possible. So make sure that microchip information is up to date, make sure vaccine information is up to date, and make sure that you have planned ahead for where you and your pet may be able to take shelter during a time of emergency.
Again, especially in times like we're in now in the South, this information is so important. Again, our guests have been Dr. Roberta Westbrook, the Chief Animal Welfare and Medical Officer at Houston SPCA, as well as Dr. Rebecca Tremble, the veterinarian and U.S. Strategic Partnership Lead at Hill's Pet Nutrition, helping us all to be able to make sure we're keeping our pets safe during a disaster. Dr. Tremble, where can our audience go for more information?
You can go to hillspet.com/prepareyourpet to find many other.
All right, and we'll make sure that we link that up. Thanks to the two of you for the great work you're doing, and looking forward to speaking with you again.